Innsbruck in Austria is the third stop on the BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Cup Tour, and in this strange season it's also the venue for races 5 and 6 of the two-man bobsleigh campaign. After 4 races over 2 weekends in Sigulda, we're going to repeat here in Austria. 2 races this weekend, 2 next. Well, it was a snowy morning. The sun briefly came out at lunchtime, but the clouds have rolled over the Tyrol mountains once more. We could be in for a little more dusting of the white stuff that has made this a winter wonderland all week long. 1,200 meters this Innsbruck track. Let's take a look at the challenges. Well, it's a short start area, but it is a vital one. Speed here will help you all the way down. The start record dates back to December 2011. Oscars Melbardis and Daumans Treskins will get nowhere near that in today's conditions. Out of corner 2, the Omega down into corner 3. 2 long, slow, gentle turns to start you off. Then the upper labyrinth, corners 4, 5 and 6. Easy to make mistakes here that you never get the time back from. Into the 270-degree Kreisel. Every track's got to have one. Well, they do nowadays. And then down into the corner 8, 9 and 10 combination. 9 and 10 short shoot, easy to make a mistake. 10 sets you up for the lower labyrinth. Speeds here 75 miles an hour and climbing. 11, 12, 13 and the finish corner 14. 51.25, the fastest a sled has ever been down here, set in February 2017 by our winner last year, Francesco Friedrich, with Torsten Margis. In fact, Friedrich had, from that 14-15 season where he claimed his first win here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive victories. That string broken yesterday by Johannes Lochner, who took the gold medal. Friedrich in the silver, Oscars Kieber-Manis in the bronze medal. And we had some new sleds added to the field that weren't in Sigulda for the opening race weekend. All of that added to the action. And there's the man who won, Johannes Lochner. You saw Francesco Friedrich limbering up. Simon Friedli, the Swiss driver, he had a good run. Friedli and Dominic Dvorak tying for 4th place. Oscars Melbardis on the podium in 3rd. But it was a resounding victory for Johannes Lochner. Hansi winning by 0.3 of a second, not 300ths here. This is a very close track. Well, let's take a look at our start list. We have, again, 21 sleds in the field. 2 drivers will be sitting in, as far as we're aware. One of them won't make it. Yesterday, it was Rudy Rinaldi of Monaco who didn't get through, and it's entirely possible that might be the same again. Mihai Tente of Romania is the other driver who sits in, and he's got Raul Dobra behind him. After Ciprian Doroxi was the man who did the heavy lifting yesterday. Understandably, they're putting in fresh legs behind Mihai. And the same Thibaut Desmartins will be behind Rudy Rinaldi. Getting race 6 of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup underway. Marcus Treichel and fresh brakeman legs today, Gregor Glaboniat. Only his 2nd ever World Cup start in two-man. He's had 4 bob races only, 1 in 4-man, 3 in 2-man. Said in his first race he nearly didn't get in the sled. Well, no such dramas here. A 5.30 start. One of these guys start yesterday. Marcus Treichel started 5:20, 5:21 in the 2 heats yesterday. That might be an indication of the more humid conditions making the start area a little stickier for the runners. We'll have to wait and see. Treichel knows his way down this track well. Started here pre-teens as a luger. Family have been involved in running the track for many years in the admin offices. And Marcus has grown up on this ice. 18th in yesterday's race. This is his 28th World Cup race. And across the line he comes, and that's a 52.36. One of the things you get with double race weekends and double weekends in the same place is lots of repetition, which is very rare indeed. Normally in a race weekend, you'd have 6 training runs, which you have to split between 2-man and 4-man. Here they concentrate on one sled. They raced yesterday, they race again today, and they come back next week, and it's not a 4-man weekend, it's a 2-man double weekend again. So a huge amount of knowledge going into even the most experienced knowledge banks, and for the newer sliders, the relatively younger drivers, then it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Having 4 2-man races on the same track within 8 days is really unheard of. So Marcus Treichel gives us an indication perhaps of where we are. First heat yesterday a 53.21, then a 53.18. Today has come down 52.36. Next up is Mattia Variola. Well, Mattia was first out of the start shed in the race yesterday, with Lorenzo Bellotti behind him then and now. Lorenzo making his 5th 2-man start, Mattia his 9th as a driver, but the 25th of his career because he started as a brakeman. World Cup best, 12th place in Sigulda. Best here, 16th place yesterday, 5:17 getaway. The Italians converting this brakeman into a driver in the last couple of seasons. This is his first full season on the World Cup. At least that's the intention at the moment. It's, of course, an all-European campaign this year. The race in Beijing has been scratched. I'm still waiting to find out where we will go for its replacement. Nice lines from Mattia Variola. Really smooth-looking run from the Italian. Cursed him there. He came a little late off 9. 1300s up high in 10. Man, oh man. 200s up on Marcus Treichel. Has he got enough down at the bottom? He's going to drop behind, but not by much. 1100s at the line. Aye, says Manny Mahata. It's a little bit hard in the mouth there as he got down. Had big height early on in 10. And then in the labyrinth, just a little late onto 12, which was always a danger. Let's take a look at load. Ooh, Lorenzo dropping in behind, and bang, all the hard effort at the start gone away. Big hit there as the loose start comes in beside you. Now imagine that in a race car, go off the line and then hit the barriers. Of course, it's not good for your speed. And down here, 9 into 10. Not a bad looking little run. Right up. I do think he got nudged away there by the woodwork in corner 10. And that nearly left him in all sorts of trouble down in the labyrinth. Next up, Ivo de Bruin making his 48th World Cup start in 2-man alone. A 7th 2-man race for Janko Francic, his brakeman. A 7-time Bosnian weightlifting champion. Big Janko. Big is the right word, he is a unit, isn't he? 34 years old, the driver, 26, his brakeman. And he gets in, they skate through 1 and 2 off a 5:21 getaway. That's quicker than our leader, Marcus Treichel. Ivo de Bruin in one of the Belgian BTC sleds. This is the sled the Belgians have been driving for the last few years, trying out different things. Nice looking line from 9, little skid down to 10. I beg your pardon, that was out of the Kreisel. Little skid from 9 down into 10 that time. Good speed, nice advantage over Marcus Treichel for Ivo de Bruin.
Good boy. 52.25.
Tom Delahunty happy with that, 52.25 off a 5:21 start. And let's have a look on page 2. That's page 1 of our timing screens from yesterday. 52.19, 52.26, his 2 runs yesterday. So right in there with the second of them. So Ivo driving Alpha Williamson's old BTC sled.
Hey iedereen thuis, iets beter dan gisteren. Komt goed, nog eentje.
I think that was the quick one, Maximus. Next up, Roman Heinrich of France, 30-year-old driver in his 26th race in the front of a two-man sled. He's 44th in the back. Third start for Steven Mondenacker, the Franco-Monegasque 27-year-old brakeman. World Cup best for Roman Heinrich is still his silver medal in Lake Placid in 2019. Best here, 6th position in the race in January. And yesterday, an off-form 13th. Margot Bock and Carla Seneschal, the French women duo, had a good run in the women's race this morning. Best speed so far for Roman Heinrich in a French sled. Little skid off the Kreisel. Clearly the track feels different from yesterday. They haven't been down it since then. The women race this morning. Men will have had a chance to walk it, but it doesn't tell you how it's going to feel. He's late in the labyrinth, gets away with it. And across the line, 500s up on Ivo de Bruin, 52.20. And Steven Mondenacker. Quick dab of the brakes before the final corner in the outrun. There's not much time after you cross the finish line. Just to haul on the anchors, get them out of the way as the sled comes through the final turn. Seven down to 8, nice line. Last year he struggled to recapture the form of the previous season that saw him as a regular top 6 contender and a medal threat. He needs to try and find that form again. Could this be the start of a renaissance for Roman Heinrich? We'll wait and see. Next up, the first of 3 Latvian sleds. This is Ralf Berčins, the 23-year-old, with his 24-year-old brakeman Edgars Nemo behind him. Edgars in his 4th two-man World Cup start. This is the 18th already for Ralf Berčins, who we first saw in Sigulda in November 2019. Former luger as well. Often a good way to start young. You can start luge younger than bobsleigh, and it teaches you how to drive the ice. 5.11. That's the fastest start we've seen so far. That gives him a 1/10 of a second as he sits down over Roman Heinrich. How much can he build on that? Extra 300s by the Kreisel. Best speed, though, for the Latvian. Not gaining anything on Heinrich, is he? Still only a 1/10 in front. And that could come down to nothing at the line. Roman Heinrich with the best speed at the bottom. And across the line he comes, tied, 52.20. Well, that is the nature of this Innsbruck track. That and the danger zone after the finish line. Little wave from Edgars Nemo. Ralf Berčins tied for the lead with Roman Heinrich. So he got out of the sled yesterday and favoured that left leg. I'm not entirely sure he's entirely happy with it. Still giving it everything at the start. Drivers here, they just sit down. Yeah, right. Because you can't get away without being a power athlete, a sprinter and a gymnast getting into these sleds. If anything, the two-man brakeman has the easy job, runs along, pushes it, and then leaps in the big opening at the back. See, Edgars there, pops over the line, huge brake effort. Then they go into the final right-hand turn, which is not part of the timed course, into the finish area. A tie for the lead, Roman Heinrich and Ralf Berčins. 5 down, 16 to go, race 6 now of the BMW, I'm starting to lose track, BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. Here's Oskars Kupermanis, bronze medalist yesterday, 60th two-man race of his career. 2 wins in all that time, both taken in Sigulda in November 2019. January 2020 it was. Kubermanis 3400s up. Big starting crew. They're the fastest so far and will be in the top 3 in terms of starts, if not the fastest. Best speed at the Kreisel as a result. Start fast and carry the speed preciously through the upper labyrinth. Then you can start to capitalise. 9 to 10 wasn't good yesterday. Didn't look that great today either. Still has the best speed and he's building his advantage over Roman Heinrich and Ralf Bertjens, his teammate, and across the line, 4500s up. Bronze medalist yesterday, only his 2nd medal of the season. He got 1 silver with a 6th, a 7th and an 8th in Sigulda in the other 3 races. What did he produce yesterday? Am I not finding his times when I need to? Let's take a look at the start.
So, Achtung, jetzt wird's spannend. Jetzt werden wir sehen, was heute für Zeiten möglich sind.
Mats Miknes behind, leaps in, drops in with the experience of a lot of starts. Mattis in his 36th two-man start. But 9 to 10. We're doing well if he ends up in the medals this time. Kubermanis with a 51.64 first heat yesterday, 51.76 in the second heat. So the pace of the track is about where we were in Heat 2 yesterday. Let's see what Johannes Lochner can produce. Yesterday's winner, his second heat was a 51.45. It was the fastest of the competition. Christian Rasp back behind him today. Because Eric Franke, yesterday's winning brakeman, pulled a hamstring in their second start, which was also, by the way, the fastest of the competition. 5:07 getaway. Yesterday, Christian Rasp was pushing Christoph Hafer, but he's back with Hansi this morning in the lead. Hansi led by 1700s after the first heat over Kubermanis, 1800s over Lochner, over Friedrich, and extended that to a 3/10 margin of victory. Lauren Alter won the women's race this morning by 3/10 over second. And Eagles, here we go, down to 700ths of a second. It may not be the same first run out of Johannes Lochner. Leads at the line, 51.65. And that's 2/10 slower than his best drive yesterday. That'd be enough to put him in the medals. Looks like he's relatively happy with that, but then he's relatively happy every time he doesn't, I don't know, have a major disaster. And even then, there's a wry smile on his face. Starting 5:07, 100 slower than the 2 Latvians. Yesterday, 5:03, 5:04 with Eric Franke. And with a muscle pull, maybe that Eric's out of action next weekend as well. There's definitely a risk of re-aggravating that before the Christmas break. Might be better for him to be on the bench next week and have an extra 7 days to heal up. Hansi Lochner with the best speed at the bottom. Has he had a haircut since yesterday? Yes, no he hasn't. Not sure, hard to tell. Almost as short as Christian Rasp's. Next up, Switzerland's Simon Friedrich. 9th World Cup start as a driver for him in two-man. Greg Jones behind him, making his 6th start. British dad, Swiss mother, born in Lucerne, bred in Switzerland. Simon Friedrich, 6 of his 8 World Cup starts as a driver before today have been on one track, not in St-Moritz. He spent almost all of his driving career in World Cup in Sigulda. That's how many two-man races we've had there. 2/10s back from the leader off a 5:15 getaway. So 800s behind at the start. That's already 3 times that. Again, this is his 9th driving World Cup. Little rattle down into corner 10. Uses good height. Into the danger zone, 11 into 12. He's through safely. He had a crash there from Bree Walker this morning in the women's race. 52-22. And that leaves him currently in 5th position behind the tie for 3rd, Heinrich and Bertjens. 100th behind them. Now 200s behind them make that. So 3 sleds in 200ths of a second. That is very much an Innsbruck race. And 300s behind him is Ivo de Bruin. So 4 sleds covered by 500ths of a second. In racing terms, that's pretty much a dead heat after the first run. Could be some shaping up. And you know, definitely there is a lot of time to be found simply by not repeating that mistake in the second heat. So Simon Friedrich is done. That's 8 sleds out of our 21 field down. 9th of our starters from the Czech Republic, Dominik Dvořák, with Jakub Nošek behind him. Dvořák, his 30th race in the 2-man World Cup as a driver today. He did 2 as a brakeman before that in 2-man. Predominantly he was a 4-man brakeman. And Jakub Nošek, his 26th 2-man start, so a lot of experience. This is Jakub's 58th World Cup race of all kinds. Yesterday, 4th equal with Mikkel Vogt, and that was a career-high equaling result. 5:18 the getaway. These 2 guys had a really solid day yesterday. Good starts and really nice driving. He has been testing a new BTC sled. Hasn't raced it yet. I'm sure it will come out in training again next week. 3rd and 4th best speed. I think that's what he's looking for, really. The newer sled, maybe with a slightly more aerodynamic cowl, just to bring those top speeds up. 3500s back. .52.06. And he came down 51.85 and 98 yesterday. The humidity is there, the track is not quite so quick. These 2 raced together to 4th equal yesterday. And Dvořák's previous 4th place was in Sigulda in 2019. Ooh. Jakub just missing his footing as he gets in there, but luckily Dominik had his hands on the D-rings and held the ship steady. Easy for me to say. Out of 9, little late steer there. Track obviously is feeling different. Just watch the front runners, just a little check there to correct it, bring the tail back. Should be wearing a yellow vest, our World Cup leader, Francesco Friedrich. Torsten Margis behind him. Yesterday's race, Francesco had Torsten resting. I beg your pardon, he didn't. He had Torsten behind him yesterday. Six straight wins in Innsbruck this duo had before yesterday afternoon. The last race here, Johannes Lochner beat them. So let's see if he can return to winning form. He's had 4 straight wins this season, 1 silver medal. Likes to win, doesn't like losing a lot. 5:04 getaway was quicker than Lochner. He's 500s up, 2nd best speed. Oskar Kupermanis had the best speed there. Hansi just a little quicker here. 1/10 of a kilometres all, 9 to 10. Made that mistake yesterday. He's made it again today. 400s up. It's loose, but it's fast. He's going to have the lead at the line, isn't he? 51.60. Torsten pops up possibly a fraction before the line. Hopefully got on the brakes a fraction after the line. It's a fine one to judge when you're the brakeman, though. You're not looking, of course. Your head is basically buried between your ankles in the base of the sled, trying to stay out of the wind or maintain the exact position that the wind tunnel decides is best. Take a look, out of 9, comes a little late, just has that final tiniest little, almost imperceptible movement of the hands that just brings the late steer in, drives it into the wall. He didn't believe, and that's rare with Francesco. A bump in 12 into 13. No major dramas. Null fear, that's all that Torsten Margis wanted to know. It's up to Francesco to win the race. It's up to him to win the start. They lead by 500ths from Johannes Lochner. Oskars Kiebermanis in 3rd. 10 sleds down, first heat of race 6 of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. And next up, Patrick Baumgartner with Eric Fantazzini behind him. Eric making his World Cup debut yesterday. Patrick Baumgartner finished 17th position in yesterday's two-man race. It was an improvement on 18th place in January. Although in January's race, of course, we did have North American sleds, we had Korean sleds, we had Chinese sleds, we had Canadian sleds, US sleds, so it was a bigger field. It was a bumper field, in fact, in January, nearly 32-man sleds. Baumgartner didn't have the best day yesterday. Let's see what he can produce today. Start 5:24 was a top 10 start, still 10th on the splits. So he's battling with his teammate Mattia Variola. Variola finished 1 spot ahead of him yesterday. Baumgartner, the Youth Olympic champion in boys bobsleigh, is in 10th place, 52.41, 600ths ahead of his teammate. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't want to run up onto the rubber. That rubber matting is less damaging than concrete, but it's less kind than ice. Off the Kreisel, not a bad looking exit down into corner 8. Just gets on maybe a little early. That gives him time to sort it out. And out of 9, pretty decent feel. They could do with a bit more at the start. 2/10 behind Francesco Friedrich at the start. Tends to mean about 6/10 behind at the bottom. About 8/10 back. On a short track like this, giving away time at the start does not help you. Christoph Hafer next up. Christian Hammers behind him. First World Cup start of the weekend for Christian Hammers. And Christian had a very happy day spectating yesterday as girlfriend Brianna Walker won the monobob race. Bit less happy this morning. She crashed in the second heat of the women's race, still finished, and it was not last either, so still finished well, ironically, as they start in 5:22. Lee Walker having her career best race result in Innsbruck in the women's field, despite that crash out of 12. So 5:22, just a couple of hundredths of a second ahead of the last sled we saw, Patrick Baumgartner. Let's see what Christoph Hafer can produce. 3 4th places, a 5th and a 6th position so far this year. Didn't manage to sneak onto the podium in Sigulda this season like he did last time. It's a nice looking, fast flowing run from Christoph Hafer. Top 5 result. 700ths behind Dominik Dvorak of the Czech Republic, and 700ths ahead of the Roman Heinrich, Ralf Berchins, Simon Friedrich and Ivo de Bruin logjam. Take a look. Hafer, there's a lot of Hafer. He is a very tall man getting into these sleds. I think he's the tallest of the 3 German drivers we've got here. These sleds, like racing cars, the smaller you are, the better it tends to be fitting in. Of course, the taller and the more powerful you are, the better it tends to be heaving them off the line. That's what people always used to tell me. You're tall, you must be fast. Doesn't always work that way. Same way with the airlines. You're tall, you must need to be rich to have legroom. Anyway, Mikkel Vogt next up with Oliver Giga on the back of the sled. So Giga starting in the second race of the weekend. Be interesting for him to compare himself with the first start of Sandro Michel, a 5:12 and a 5:13 yesterday, and a 5:26 getaway. It's important to keep all your push athletes as fit, healthy, and as race ready as possible. Don't want to give away too much at the start. But on the other hand, when it's all two-man so far this season, you have 8 two-man races before Christmas. You don't want to whip the horse until it's dead. So Sandro Michel with a day off. Hopefully it's only that and not an injury. Mikkel Vogt tied for 4th place yesterday with Dominic Dvorak. A really big day at the office for the Swiss driver. Across the line, 13th place. Didn't look like it was yesterday's drive. Well, 12th best start, 13th at the bottom. Yesterday, 6th best start, 4th at the bottom. Again, brings it down just a little early. Centrifugal force holds him on the wall. Watch the runner tips. Not steering here. Just gets driven across into that left-hand wall. Sets him up in the end for 10, but he could have done without the hit. Just a fraction late on the timing. Mihai Centaur on the right of your picture. Yesterday, Ciprian Deroxy was hauling him off the line. Today, it's Raul Dobra who has to do the work because Mihai, nursing an injury, will sit in. And if you ask what is the purpose, well, the purpose is earning points for your World Cup rankings, all of which goes into helping with your start positions in the World Championships. Of course, it's all about experience and racing as well. Racers want to race, drivers want to drive, whatever they drive. 5:77. So it's an invidious job for the brakeman. Whatever you do, you're going to end up looking like the slowest man on the planet because you're pushing a sled that's no longer empty. Not only is the driver not helping, he's actually hindering you as you push. 11th best speed though for Mihai Centaur. And despite the slower start, the speeds down at the bottom will be very, very similar indeed. Centaur risking it all down in the labyrinth, hangs on to it. He was a little late in 11, and across the line, 14th place. Well, unsurprisingly, he started half a second slower than anybody else because he's sitting in, and they come down 2.19 off the lead, a 53.79. Now, yesterday, they made it into the second heat with 2 drivers sitting in. We assume that that is going to be the plan for our driver from Monaco as well today. Haven't heard that Rudy Rinaldi is going to push, but we'll wait and see. He didn't make the cut yesterday, Rudy Rinaldi, but Mihai Centaur did. A little error there from Mihai, but not too much to worry about. What can you do? When you hurt, you hurt. All you can do if you push is make it worse. Ask Oscars Melbardis. He's had a few weeks away over his career with a series of back injuries. Now, Arnis Bebris behind him. Melbardis finished in 10th place yesterday. Let's see what the veteran 37-year-old now can produce. 5:19 the getaway. 1500s slower than our race leader, Francesco Friedrich. And it's either starting to get foggy or the cloud is descending down the mountain. And with potentially changeable weather, could make first heats very, very important. 10th best speed, up to 2nd best speed. But off the 8th best start, he is only 10th on the splits. 10th place yesterday. It is looking like a 10th place run again. Eva de Bruin is 9th. Marcus Streicher is in 10th, and he is between them. Was that Sanders Prusa saying, oh dear, in English? Was that just my ears, or is my Latvian suddenly much better than I think it is? Either that, or it's a Latvian. I need a Latvian to tell me, don't I? That was a Latvian phrase that sounded like oh dear, or oh dear, yeah. Well, 10th place, don't forget that this man had 2 seasons away, basically, after the Pyeongchang Games. A full season away from sliding, and then went on to the Europa Cup, earned his position back to get his World Cup standing status back, earned his spot in the Latvian team. He's back on the World Cup again now. Oh yeah. Francesco Friedrich, Johannes Lochner and Oskars Kibermanis. Yesterday's podium, just in a slightly different order. Last season, as recently again as January here, Brad Hall and Greg Cackett, with Greg suffering with a back injury, took a silver medal. This time it's Brad Hall who's crooked, but they got a 7th place finished yesterday. Not with Greg Cackett in the sled, but with Nick Gleeson back in bobsled for the first time since the Olympic Games. I beg your pardon, since the World Championships in Whistler. So what can these guys produce? Well, what they've done is a 6th best start, 5:16. Yesterday was the first World Cup race of the season for Brad. Nice looking drive so far. Only the 10th highest speed though. 7th place at the moment, so behind Roman Heinrich, Ralph Berchins, right in that log jam with Friedrich, de Bruin, Melbardis. Where's he going to be? Ahead of them or behind them? Looking at 6th at the line. So he is behind Christoph Hafer by 300ths. Ahead of Heinrich and Berchins by 400ths. And you can see there all the charities that each of the members of the Brad Hall bobsled team has chosen to go on the sled. They're trying to raise money for each of them. Each has got a personal reason for choosing their charities, as well as saying thank you to Britain's National Health Service. So this year they are sliding as Team Giving Back, just trying to raise a little bit of funds, not for themselves. They are funded by a benefactor for the season, but for other people who do good. We've had 16 sleds down. Next up is the young Russian Rostislav Gajtukovic, again with Ilya Malik behind him. That's the hulking figure closest to the camera. Gajtukovic, 22 years old. It's only his 4th World Cup. He made his debut in Sigulda. He had a 4th and an 8th. And yesterday, another 8th place result. This young man, I think he's going to have a very bright future. If they can keep him healthy and keep him learning, he could be a real medal threat as soon as 2 years' time. Ilya Malik behind him has been around the block a number of times, so he's got great speed and power and great experience as a brakeman. That allows Gajtukovic just to get on with doing what he needs to do, which is learning fast. Just outside the top 10 in terms of speed, but off the 5th place start, this is the 4th fastest run so far. Best speed, low down the track. The sled looks good and it's flying. Gajcikovic on target for 4th place behind Oskars Kilomanis. Ahead of Dominik Dvorak at the line. He is 4th. He's ahead of Dvorak by 0.04 of a second. I think the coach might smile a little bit. I think this kid has got it all. He's got age on his side. He's young, he loves what he's doing. He is having fun every day he's at the track. That's what you want. He's fast at the start. He's clearly got driving potential. Hey, potential nothing, he's realizing it now. And look at that, speed at the bottom, superb from Rostislav Gajcikovic. Faster than the 2 Germans, Friedrich and Lochner. So Rostislav Gajcikovic in 4th place. It's a big jump up to 3rd. 2700ths off 3rd place. Next up, Benny Meyer and Donut Moldovan on the back of the sled today. Once again, Benny keeping his brakeman fresh. 5:24 start for them. It's his first World Cup weekend of the season. Didn't go to Sigulda. Of course, his wife Elizabeth restarted her World Cup career. The only Canadian sliding outside of North America in 2020's part of the season. We expect Canadian bobsleigh and skeleton to make a decision tomorrow as to what they're going to do after Christmas, whether they will come to Europe or not. I think that is going to be a tentative decision. They'll make plans either to come or not to come for the World Cup races based on the COVID situation. 52.23, 11th place. How far away is 10th? 100th of a second. Massive log jam in the 6 to 12 spots. And Elizabeth Meyer tells us that Benny is in Spanky this weekend. That's not the figure-hugging underwear. That's a former Belgium sled, so it's Anne van Nieuwenhuis's old sled. The Dutch and the Austrians both trying out these Belgian BTC sleds. And I understand that Anne van Nieuwenhuis should be back next weekend, possibly in a brand new BTC. We'll wait and see. I think Spanky responds well to the driver ducking their head at the finish line, Benny. You might want to think about that. Next up for Russia, Alexei Stulnev with Roman Koshelev. Koshelev was behind him in yesterday's race. And let's see what they can produce. Alexei only 14th place yesterday. Gajcikovic was the top Russian slider in 8th. And Gajcikovic right now in 4th place. So Stulnev with the 11th fastest start, 5.20, 3400s back. 11th best start. This is a 9th place run at the moment. And in other Russian sliding news, Alexei Kazyanov, his ban has finished. He had an IBSF ban. That has now expired. So he'll be free to compete from January 2021. Alexei Stulnev comes across the line in 17th place. And Alexander Kazyanov, whether he is fit, healthy training or not, it remains to be seen. 52.48 for Alexei Stulnev. So 11th at the start, 17th at the bottom. not having a good weekend so far here in Innsbruck. He needs to turn that around for next weekend. Can't escape it. Drivers in any form of motorsport tend to have kind of bogey track that they either can't unlock the secrets of, don't get on with, don't like, what have you. And you sort of put up with it. Can't put up with this one because there's 2 race weekends here. Pete Gunn on the back of the sled. Lamindine and James de Solo here for Great Britain. And the British sleds all self-funding. These guys, Brad Hall, Misha McNeil, all finding their own funding, finding their own coaching. Sort of separate teams competing for Great Britain, but sort of working together as well, which makes sense. Pool your resources. 5:23 getaway. Let's have a look at what they started yesterday. 5:24 in the first heat. James, 100-meter runner, brand new to bobsledding this autumn. So he is still learning how to get the best out of his body to get these sleds off the line. 15th best start, but it is drifting away from Lamindine. Definitely prefers a 4-man race to a 2-man race these days. Out to 19th place at the moment. .52.56. And more from Elizabeth Arche. But she's saying Lamindine is in Benny Meyer's old Valna sled, the one that Francesco Friedrich used to win World Championship gold. Now, of course, what the sled is and what the runners are not necessarily exactly the same thing. Again, watch the brakeman there. James de Solo leaping in as they head down to turn 1. Just kicks the sled a little bit sideways. Lamin had his hands on the D-rings and avoided the walls. So they lie in 19th place of 20 sleds. And as expected, Mihai Tentea on the bubble. I think, yeah, as expected, Rudy Rinaldi having to sit in. He too is injured. And big Thibaut Desmartins is on the back of the sled today. He is the guy who is going to have to heave it off on its own. Antoine Hugh did it yesterday. It's a big unit again. He is just a monster. 5.90 start. And is trying to find the pace to overhaul the Romanian sled. Now, because Mihai Tentea is really so much smaller than Rudy Rinaldi, Raul Dobra had less weight to shift, 577 compared to 590 of Rudy Rinaldi. So Rudy starting slower and with 1300s less in the bank. At the moment, from the 21st start, he is still not making the cut. Tentea 53.79 at the bottom. 21st place for Rudy Rinaldi, and at the line it is a 21st place finish. So 53.84. Between the devil and the deep blue sea, really, when the driver isn't fit to help with the start. We've seen sometimes the driver will do a couple of steps just to get the sled moving, just to take that, you know, 90, 95 kilos, whatever it is, out of the sled at the start, and then hop in. But again, that in itself risks aggravating injuries. Almost a little selfie wave to the camera there. It's just, the driver, I think, probably feels, okay, this is just wrong. It's all kinds of wrong for the driver, but you've got to get in and race. If you're fit, you're fit. If you're not, you're not. And when a 6-year winning streak comes to an end, what's the best thing to do? Bounce back by taking the lead of the race after the first heat. Francesco Friedrich and Torsten Margis. One here in 2014-15. They won the Worlds in 2016. They won here in the 16-17. They won the Europeans in 17-18. They won here 18-19 and 19-20. They did not win here yesterday, but they bounced back. 500s ahead of Hansi Lochner. There's your race. Kibamanis, 1500s. Okay, and behind them, there's the second race, the race within a race. Gajtukovic, just ahead of Dvorak, Hafer, Hall, Heinrich, Berchins, Friedrich, Meyer, De Bruin and Melbardis. The next notifiable gap is back to Marcus Treichel in 14th place. And behind him, there's 500s to Baumgartner, a further 6 to Variola, 1 to Stulnev and Vogt. It's going to be a topsy-turvy second heat, and hopefully the weather will allow it to progress. Join us for the final run in this first weekend in Innsbruck. We will be back at 3:30 local, 14:30 GMT. That's 40 minutes from now. Join us then.